What if I told you that some of your favorite songs were created by artists who are no longer with us? And the reason they're gone will shock you. Today, we're talking about 25 incredibly talented Black R&B singers who died way too young from AIDS. Let's start with Sylvester. And this guy was absolutely fearless. You know that song, You Make Me Feel Mighty Real? That was him. And he was pure magic on stage. In 1987, his boyfriend Rick died of AIDS. Sylvester knew he probably had it too, but instead of hiding, he kept performing. Even when he got so sick he couldn't walk, he showed up to San Francisco's Gay Pride Parade in a wheelchair. Thousands of people were chanting his name. He told reporters, "I don't believe AIDS is God's punishment." Sylvester died in December 1988 at 41. Wearing a red kimono just like he wanted. But Sylvester wasn't the only musical legend dealing with this disease. One of R&B's most famous families was facing their own private hell. The DeBarge family was R&B royalty. Bobby DeBarge was the lead singer of Switch and the oldest brother of the famous DeBarge siblings. After getting out of prison for drug charges, Bobby was excited about his comeback. He'd written songs while locked up and was ready to show the world he'd changed. But Bobby had told his family a secret. He had HIV. As his new album, It's Not Over, was being finished, Bobby was getting sicker. The album title became heartbreakingly ironic because for Bobby, it really was over. He died in August 1995 at just 39 years old. The album came out right after his funeral. Speaking of artists who were brave enough to tell the truth, there's one singer whose honesty changed everything for R&B. Kenny Green was the voice behind the group Intro. These guys made the kind of love songs that had everyone slow dancing. But Kenny was hiding something that could have destroyed his career. He was bisexual. In 2001, Kenny did something incredible. He told Sister to Sister magazine the truth about his sexuality and that he was fighting AIDS. This was huge. Nobody in R&B was talking about being gay or having AIDS. Kenny knew it might ruin everything, but he did it anyway. He wanted to help other people who were scared and hiding. Sadly, Kenny died in New York at just 32 years old. But his courage opened doors for so many artists who came after him. Now, if you think AIDS only affected R&B singers, you're about to be shocked. It even took down one of rap's biggest legends. Eazy-E basically invented gangsta rap with NWA. This guy rapped about surviving the dangerous streets of Compton. But he couldn't survive this. In February 1995, he started coughing really bad and went to the But sometimes, the most heartbreaking stories are about artists whose songs tried to warn us about exactly what ended up killing them. Remember We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off? That song was everywhere in 1986, basically telling people to have fun, but be safe. Jermaine Stewart was like the cool big brother giving you advice about dating. His energy was infectious. And his message was all about being responsible. The cruel twist? Jermaine died of AIDS-related liver cancer in 1997 at age 39. The man who sang about being careful became a victim of the very epidemic he was warning people about. Every time that song plays now, it hits differently. Unfortunately, not every artist got the attention they deserved when they were fighting this battle. Sharon Redd had an amazing voice. She sang backup for Luther Vandross and Bette Midler before making her own disco hits like Can You Handle It? This woman could sing. Powerful, soulful, and full of emotion. But when Sharon died of AIDS complications in 1992 at age 46, hardly anyone paid attention. Sharon was a black woman with HIV, and the media basically ignored her story. No magazine covers, no TV specials, nothing. Sharon deserved so much better. She should be remembered as a disco legend, but her death was barely noticed. The music world was losing incredible talent, including artists who were breaking down barriers just by being themselves. Tony Washington was the lead singer of Dynamic Superiors. This was the 1970s, and Tony was doing something that took massive guts. He was openly gay, and sometimes performed in drag. This was unheard of in R&B back then. People weren't ready for it. But Tony didn't care. His group had hits like Shoo Shoo Shine. But Tony's real contribution was showing that you could be different and still make great music. He opened doors for every LGBTQ+ artist who came after him. When Tony died of AIDS complications in 1989, the music world lost a true pioneer. The AIDS crisis wasn't just happening in America. It was destroying musical communities all over the world. Fela Kuti was basically a superhero in Nigeria. He created Afrobeat music, mixing jazz, funk, and African rhythms into something completely new. But Fela wasn't just making music. He was fighting corruption. His song Zombie was so powerful that the government attacked his compound. When Fela died in 1997 at age 58 from AIDS-related illness, over 1 million people came to his funeral. 1 million. Even some of his family disputed the cause because of the stigma. Fela spent his life fighting oppression, but this was one battle he couldn't win. But just when C+C Music Factory was at their biggest, David got sick. He died in January 1995 at only 32 from AIDS-related complications. The dance floors that celebrated his music went quiet. The man who made millions of people dance couldn't dance his way out of this disease. Some of the saddest stories involve artists who were just getting started. Keith Barrow came from serious musical royalty. His mom was a famous gospel activist, so music was in his blood. Keith brought that spiritual foundation to R&B with songs like You Know You Want to Be Loved. This guy had a voice that could make you feel everything. But Keith became one of the first R&B casualties of AIDS when he died in 1983 at just 29. This was so early in the epidemic that most black media wouldn't even report the real cause. People were too scared to talk about it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, artists were living glamorous lifestyles that would ultimately destroy them. Kiki Gian was living every musician's dream in the 1970s. This Ghanaian keyboard player was partying with Elton John and Mick Jagger, recording disco hits like 24 Hours in a Disco. He was on top of the world, playing with the band Osibisa. But drugs destroyed everything. By 2004, Kiki was back in Ghana, broke and forgotten. He died at 47 from AIDS and drug complications, completely alone. The man who once partied with the biggest stars died with nobody remembering who he was. Not every artist faced their diagnosis in private. Some became heroes by using their fame to educate others. Philly Lutaya was Uganda's biggest pop star, known for songs like Alone and Frightened. But when he found out he had HIV, Philly did something incredible. He became the first famous Ugandan to publicly announce he had the virus. This was incredibly brave. Even while he was dying, Philly toured Uganda teaching people about AIDS prevention. He used his fame to save lives. When he died in 1989 at age 38, he'd become a national hero. Uganda now has Philly Lutaya Day every October 17th. Sometimes the most important performance isn't on a stage. The AIDS crisis reached every corner of the music world, even claiming one of the godfathers of rap. Gil Scott-Heron gave us The Revolution Will Not Be Televised and basically invented rap. This guy was a poet and musical genius who influenced everyone. His words had power. They could wake people up. Later in life, Gil revealed he was HIV positive. The man who had spent his career analyzing society's problems was facing his most personal. His album All Around Man showed that old blues could still speak to people. But Lonnie died in Mississippi in 1998 at age 43 from AIDS. When a tradition keeper dies, they take knowledge that can never be replaced. John Fogerty paid for Lonnie's headstone because he understood how important Lonnie was. The global impact of AIDS was becoming clear as artists from other countries began sharing their stories. In South Africa, Zombo was part of the Kwaito music explosion. Hip-hop mixed with African rhythms. In 2008, he went public about having HIV, hoping to help others. He died just weeks later at age 28. Another South African artist, Umanji, also spoke out before his death, warning that AIDS is killing the nation. The creative community's losses went beyond singers to include people who elevated black music in other ways. Alvin Ailey wasn't a singer, but he made black music soar through dance. His company turned gospel, jazz, and R&B into incredible ballets that traveled the world. When Alvin died in 1989 at age 58 from AIDS complications, he'd asked doctors to keep the real cause private because of stigma. Radio was also losing important voices. Melvin Lindsay created the Quiet Storm radio format, those late-night shows with smooth love songs perfect for romantic moments. His idea spread across the country. When he died in 1992 at age 36, he did his final radio show from his hospital bed, thanking listeners for their support. Some of the most heartbreaking stories involve artists who were just about to achieve their dreams. Bernard Kabanda was an incredible guitar player from Uganda who was finally getting international recognition at the 1999 WOMAD Festival. His performance blew everyone away. It looked like he was about to become a global star. But just weeks later, he died of AIDS-related illness at age 40. Success was literally within reach, but time ran out. Bernard Edwards co-founded Chic and created bass lines that are still making people dance today. Good Times, La Freak, these were Bernard's grooves. Even after being diagnosed with AIDS, he kept performing. He died suddenly during Chic's tour in Japan in 1996. The Groove Master was gone, but his beats live forever. Wayne Cooper's falsetto helped define Cameo's early sound, but he died at just 29. For years, people thought he died in a plane crash because that seemed easier to accept. Fashion designer Willie Smith died in 1987 without even knowing he was HIV positive. Comedian Charlie Barnett died quietly in 1996, largely unnoticed by mainstream media. Perhaps most shocking is realizing that stigma continued into the 21st century. When rapper Craig Mack died in 2018, his family said it was heart failure. If this video taught you something new, or if you had never heard of some of these amazing artists before, hit that like button right now. And if you want to see more videos like this, stories about music history that most people don't know about, then smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell.